identify pro-black.
History is about teaching us as a people that we're at war.
I want to speak about the image of our people. We have to be protective of our image.
Our ancestors, they were oppressed, and we are oppressed today.
Assalamu alaikum. What's happening? Hotep. Welcome to another live broadcast of the Ja and
Kev Show.
And today we have a very, very special guest, and we're going to be talking about identity in the African American community. And so the guest that we have today, she's been wanting to talk about this for the longest. So we're going to give her an opportunity to come on this broadcast. And first of all, we want to say thank you to the Queen CANDYCE herself for coming out and being on our show. A lot of men and women want to touch Kev and I, but this sister said, hey, I want to come on and talk about a subject that we identity once again. So having said that, I'm going to let her, and then you know how me and Kev do it. We're going to start throwing things up in the air and see what happens. So go ahead, sister, and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you want to come on this broadcast about.
Hey, I'm CANDYCE. Hotep, everybody. I'm CANDYCE. I'm from the Liberation Center / Liberation Academy, co-founder. I just want to talk about, I guess, identity.
Okay. CANDYCE, why did you choose that subject? Out of all the subjects there are to talk about, you chose identity, or you wanted to talk about identity. Why is that?
Because to me, it's the most important.
Okay.
And I'm on my journey, figure out who I am and where I come from along with a lot of other people as well.
Okay, Kev, what you think about identity? Do we need to discuss that?
Yeah, I mean, identity is that's a broad subject, but I think it's very pertinent in the Black community because I think we lost our identity.
Wow.
Well, I digress. We
didn't
lose our identity. Yeah. They stripped us of our identity.
Okay.
So I think that's why we are in a lot of the predicaments that we are in today.
Okay. Yeah, identity is very important, and let's talk about when we say identity. What are we really talking about? Because some people confuse identity with different concepts. But I know I'll start the ball off because I know when we talk about as a people, we didn't have, but when we look at who we are inside of us, when we look at our character, when we look at the nature of what makes us us, sometimes we can look at that to say that's our identity as well. But if we don't know who we are, we don't look at how we function and what makes us act the way we do, then that is a loss of identity. And as a people, we tend to not realize that identity it's more than a name. It's not the name. The name is who they call us. They call me Ja, they call you Kev, they call her CANDYCE, but those are names that they give to us. But identity is deeper than that. And so, CANDYCE, whatever's on your mind about identity, you can start sharing it. And then we're just going to piggyback off of you and hopefully we'll get some comments, because most of us out here should know something about identity. But y'all telling me that we never had it, so it's difficult to find, Yeah.
Let me ask a question.
Sure.
Do y'all think that it's an identity crisis, or is that hyperbolic, that that's going too much?
No, that's good, Kevin. What you think? Do we have a crisis with identity?
Yeah. I mean, I compare it to being adopted.
Okay.
So like you're looking for your whole life, you're looking for your birth parents or, your family, so you can have a sense of who you are and your purpose and stuff like that. And that's what I equivalated it to.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I saw it as more like a kidnapping as a child, and because a lot of times when you're adopted, the people that adopt you, they care for you. They they love you. They go on, and that hasn't been the case here.
Right.
So and then they want you to know who you are, to identify with yourself. And with us, it's more of an abusive relationship that we've had in this country. And I think we've been wandering around trying to find out who we were. Because first, after a while, we had no connection with our African roots.
Right.
We didn't want a connection because of the things that we were hearing about where we were from and how they found us, running around butt naked with bones in our noses and things like that. And they embedded that into our minds. So we had a negative outlook on Africa.
Right.
So,
the crisis is what you mentioned earlier, is because we're at a state right now as a people that, you would think that, and I say this often and I mean it with all my heart, the year supposedly 2024, and we're still talking about the crisis. You would think that after all gone through, we would have made some type of progress when it comes to our identity. But when you've been robbed of it, when you've been stripped of it, and then the part that I want to bring in is, okay, those things have happened, but when do we go back and say, let's look into who we are as a people so that we can better ourselves? Because a lot of us, we use the blame mentality, and that is definitely true. We do have the blame game. But then at what point do we say, we're going to start investigating and making sure that we salvage what we can so that we can have a proper self of ourselves? What do you think about that, Candace? Should we be looking into trying to grab it, or do we just let it go and just let it happen?
I can't speak for anybody else.
Okay.
But I can speak for myself.
Okay.
Yes, because we've been told this one narrative our whole life. You're a Christian. You're this. You're that. You know what I mean? And then when the light comes on, or just like one little drop of information, then you're like curious, like, oh, okay, well, what's this about? I know about Christianity, the Bible. Let me see what this is about. And so that's what it was for me. Okay. So I'm still on my journey, right? Studying and stuff like that to figure out, who I am or who I want to be, or my purpose and stuff like that. Okay. And it's a process, though. It really is, because when you look at Kev, I just have to go back to what you just said earlier. When you think about all that has happened to us, that is something that is devastating to a people. Right. And when you have a group of people, a large amount of people who seem to not want that back, you're going to continue to have chaos and anarchy. And that's why we spend our money with other people, because identity, as opposed to ourselves, true identity, it allows you to know who you are, but then you take who you are and you use it for the betterment of the people that look like you in a context that is basically pretty much a situation where, as a people, we have to begin to say, we've got to try at least to do something about that. Okay. I want to hit on something that Candace said. She said, like, the religion thing. And it's so much more, because those are things that's here and there. You can be a Christian and be have an African identity as a Christian, or as whatever. You could be whatever you are. You don't lose your culture. For example, let me give it like the Hispanics, the Mexicans that we're around San Antonio. They could be Catholic, but they still can have a high culture. We don't have a culture in our community. Only cultural things that we have, mainly that we grasp to, is the dance and the music. We're spiritual people, no matter what we do. We're spiritual people. We always have. That's something that the African American culture has been. But we don't have any traditions that we pass down through generations to say, even if it's just moral traditions, saying that, hey, you don't hit a woman. This is part of our culture. You don't do this. This is what Black people. We don't do certain things. We marry in a traditional. We don't have any traditions that we say these are our standards, and this has been passed down. Like the what's that, hacienda or something that the Mexican culture do, and they do that, and that's more like a traditional or cultural thing. That is a tradition that they have continued to pass down, no matter what they do now. They could be a Catholic or whatever, but that has nothing to do with the Catholic. But they would do that within their culture. We don't have cultural things. All we do is try to be different. And then sometimes we try to be different from the last generation of us. We don't, for it to be a tradition, it's something that you got to get from somebody in your tree. They pass it down to the next generation. What we have is a generation that say, oh man, that's how they used to do stuff. And they try to do just like we do in our community. We try to move as far away from what they were doing. They would take something like, I'm gonna get like hip hop. The younger generation, like, that's old. That's their generation of hip hop. We got to change it to suit us, or the way we dress or whatever. It's nothing that we pass down as a tradition in our community. That's so important. That is really important. And Candace and Kev, I definitely concur with a lot of the things we're saying.
but I look at something that happened to us that we're still struggling with, and it's integration, because integration was the mother, you know what? This was the thing that flipped this whole thing on its head, because at that point, many of us didn't want an identity. We took an identity that was given to us. We took the norms, the precepts, we took the mores, we took the culture, we took everything that was given to us, forced upon us. Now, I think there was a time during the 60s when we had the Black Power movement. Okay, at that time, you saw the Afro picks, you saw the Afros, you saw the Black Power, you saw the Buy Black, you saw all the traditions that we wanted to try to house. But then since then, we've seemed to have gotten away from that to now where we don't want to be who we are. And that is terrible when you look at yourself in the mirror and you look at yourself, but you say, I'm not who I am. I'm this European, Eurocentric mindset type of person. I everything I do is tailor-made because of the music I listen to was given to me. The clothes I wear was given to me. The food I eat was given to me. The idea of education was given to me. So that makes it tough for one to get into what identity is. And as the sister was saying, it makes it difficult. So now we have to begin to go back. And I'm glad that she's on this journey where she's saying, okay, this is what I'm ascribing to be. I want to learn more about that. So Candace, what do you say about the children that's growing up now? Because we're all up in age, you know, but
a lot of you are. you gonna toss her in with the old folks.
Well, no. If you pass 25 in my book, you know you're getting there. Okay, so we're all getting there. Me and Kevin, you talking about over the hill. We're on the other side of the hill. We're looking back on the other side. But you know, to the younger generation, these children, how important is identity to them? Why should we be teaching it as parents and not so much in just the school system? Because you're not going to get it.
I think it's very important because we wouldn't be going through what we're going through now. Like I said, I'm 37 and I'm still trying to figure it out. I've been through a lot. And I think if I would have known who I was and how important my voice was or how powerful I am, I wouldn't have went through half of the stuff I went through.
Wow.
So for my kids, I'm just like, y'all not finna let a dude talk to you like that because you know how powerful you are. You know how important you are. You know how beautiful you are. That would eliminate a lot of stuff.
Wow.
Self-worth, self-respect and stuff like that. If you have that, you're not finna talk to me any kind of way.
Right.
You're not finna handle me any kind of way. And I think the lack of it is why the society is the way it is today.
Okay.
Even like with the women, they fight each other for what? Like these reality shows, it's like for entertainment and you're broken. Everybody's broken, know? And it's like, you doing this for likes and views and stuff like that. At the end of the day, you can't take none of this stuff with you.
That's true.
And your legacy will be, she was on TV shaking her butt, doing this, doing that, fighting this one, fighting that one. And you have nothing to leave to your kids but some money, if that.
Wow. You're listening to the John Kev Show with our special guest, Queen Candace. We're just talking about identity in the African-American community. Why don't you give us a comment on what you think, and then Brother Kevin will read it and we'll talk about it, because that's important. I think we should have more discussions about identity. And as she's talking about her children and just children in general,
right?
It's important that we didn't get that, and so we know this. So that should be on the hearts of parents. I know you tell me sometimes when we talk off the air what you did as a father for your children, the best you could, but you knew that you had to give them something so that when they got older, they would be able to stand. Well, a lot of us don't have that mindset. So we're saying that when it comes to identity, if a person doesn't even think about who they are, try to do better, try to be a better person in different aspects of our character, then we're going to continue to be lost. And this is why I've heard some people say on social media, which I agree with, this is why we do the things we do as a people, because we don't have an identity.
Yep.
We do everything. I want to say
destructive to me.
Exactly.
Destructive. I see like every other community is united, but us. We're the most destructive in my opinion. We're the most destructive. We're the most we hate ourselves. We're the most copied, culture. Everybody, and I tell people I've told people this, you know, if you think about how much they take from us, that's power in itself. Every other culture can express that, you know, celebrate their culture. You go in a nail shop, they got the shrine up for the ancestors.
Right.
For us, it's voodoo, hoodoo, and everything else. It's demonic, it's witches, it's warlocks, you know, and it's like everybody else can celebrate. They got Day of the Dead here. They got a whole river parade and all of that for Day of the Dead.
Wow.
That's for the Hispanics. Boy, Juneteenth.
And then we argue with each other about whether celebrating Juneteenth or Black History Month or whatnot. Let me interject on a couple of things that y'all said. Identifying, you got to have an identity to identify. Many of us are searching for an identity, something that we could cling to and say, this is us. So we're all over, we're very diverse people and we're scattered. And the reason that we're having all these is because that's the plan. You strip somebody of their roots, they don't know where they're from. And we grasp things, and even when we join a religion, then we culture assimilate, you know, and we start changing to that religion's culture. You know, instead of that becoming part of your culture, you start changing to that, you know, whatever it is. Now, a lot of our problems that we have, one thing that y'all brought up is like we don't love ourselves because, I mean, if you look, like we try to assimilate to the way our slave master looked. What they told us was beauty. So many of us, we hated our hair. We hated our skin texture, and we couldn't change our skin texture, but we would talk about people and make fun of people for their features and things like that. So we don't even want to identify with our own personal self the way we are supposed to look. I don't see Asian people making fun of another Asian people because their eyes are more slanted or, you know, something like that. You know, to them, that's beauty. That's who they are. We don't have that sense of love. I'm not going to say we, of course, I'm saying we do have people that love, but when you brought up the Black Power movement, what they were doing, not just saying the Afros is us, you know, they didn't just say, well, this is what they did in Africa. They were saying, this is my hair. I'm going to let it grow and I'm going to let it show. This is who I am. I'm not going to try to assimilate to who you think or what you think beauty is. I'm not going to keep frying my hair or doing all these things like this and speak a certain way. I'm proud of who I am.
Wow. Yeah. And I also think too that, and I'm going to catch a lot of flack for what I'm about to say, but I have to say it because it's a part of why we are in the condition we're in. You can have a baby if you want to at whatever age you deem necessary. You know, I'm not here to try to put a number on it, but I know things happen. But when we're young and we have children, our mindset is so different than sometimes when we get older. And that's a role that hasn't been into the discussion, because when you look at grandma and great grandma and them, they may not have had as much as we have today, but they had morals, they had values. They would try to teach things to help us to shape the culture, to shape identity, to teach us right from wrong, to teach us to love ourselves regardless of. But when you have younger people having babies, not that I'm trying to critique and condemn them, I'm saying the reality is that a lot of us, as we started having these children, that went out the window because we didn't have it, you see. And so now we got a whole group of people who could care less about identity. This discussion to many people is, why are we talking about this? This is the mindset that has been created. And this is why we can't have this kind of dialogue, because a lot of people don't give a rat's you know what about identity. They want money, they want fame, they want fortune, they want anything they can get to try to make themselves be somebody that they're not. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Candace, but what I can't realize and don't get today is we know who we are. In other words, I know who I am. I know what I have. I know what I don't have. But I have deluded myself into looking in the mirror and thinking that I'm somebody that I'm not. You see, I'm not wealthy. I'm not rich. I'm not famous. But when I look in the mirror, or when I get some clothes or a vehicle, I see myself as a movie star. If I have a broadcast, I see myself as a celebrity, but I'm not that. So we have deluded ourselves, and now that has blinded us as to who we really are and what we should be doing to fix that.
I think it's not convenient figuring out who you are is not convenient. We got kids, we got jobs, we got to, and it takes a lot of work, and it's a struggle for me. Let's get up, let's do this, let's exercise. Let's study. It's a struggle for me. And so, you got people that are distracted and they don't want to do the work. It requires work.
Yeah. Well, Kev, what do you say, man?
It's and like Candace said, that's a plan. That's part of the plan too. If they keep your hands to make it, just to stay afloat, you don't have a lot of time to do other things, or you think you don't. But if you cut away some of the fat that you're watching on TV, the things that you're ingesting on TV or on the media or in the music that's not helping you, because if there's a deficiency, if you look at our people and you identify the deficiencies that we have as a people, then you should be trying to make that up. Yeah. If I'm going to listen to music, I'm not going to listen to just booty shaking music or somebody talking about killing. I'm going to take a step back and say, okay, the beat sounds nice or whatever, but that's not, conducive. That doesn't help our people when you look at what we need. So I'm going to turn that off. If you look at a movie and you say, oh, it's entertainment, but you could entertain yourself off of something that's going to give you food,
yes, sir,
for your thought, or help your kids. And this is what's happening. Our kids, Candace brought up like being adopted. They're being adopted by this country because they got the parents. A lot of the parents that want to be there, they're so busy trying to work and handle. You hear a lot of people say, well, my mom had to work 2 jobs and I started getting, she can't look over you. The village is decrepit now. That oasis of thinking that we had a village. I say we never really had a village, because if we had a village is supposed to protect what's inside, and they infiltrated and they steady destroying. We always go to them for education, and then they teach us the way they want us to be and to learn. And one thing that I think Candace said was they copy us, and that shows us our power. Power is control. If you can't control it, then you have no power. They will get from us. That shows you our talent, our value. But we have to control those things. Even if I look at hip hop and I say, well, Grandmaster Flash, whoever, they developed the turntable things and all. That was something and an invention. Right. And this is something that goes past that, but this is something more recent. They sell those turntables. He gets nothing for that. He took 2 say, you know what? Wait a minute. If I stop this and turn the volume down, and now they selling them, they market it, and they're making billions of dollars off of things that we've done. And this is not something new, because they have done it. When we're learning about Black history, we see that we have invented a whole lot, but we don't have any wealth. Right. Because we're doing it for someone else. Right. We're almost like a slave. We're still doing it for someone else. You may get a little credibility, but you're not cornering that market and doing it for your people, and they have to come get it from us, like they're going to copy it, but you got to pay me to get it. So we don't have that type of identity within ourselves like that.
That is very profound, both of you, and very prolific. And I want to add on to that, but I want to come at it from a different perspective, meaning that what you just said is absolutely truth. We have so many things working for us, but we have a lot of things working against us. One of the things that I've noticed too is that the average person, when I talk about average, I'm talking about us. We have allowed our children, when we get older, to become the parents. See, we don't want to talk about this, but many of us are children, and our children are our parents. In other words, the roles have been reversed. We have children, they grow up, and instead of us being a parent, they become our parents and we become their children. And therefore, we don't have time to talk about identity. We don't have time to listen to these kinds of lectures. We don't have time to try to find out, what can I do to become a better person? What can I do to help these children? Because we all know children. But when the parent becomes the child, you have yourself a serious problem. And I see that every day, where a grown person have to get permission from their child, who is maybe in their 20s, 30s, or 40s. So the child is basically running the show now, because the parent they're so infatuated with these kids and these kids and all these issues that we got. So it just bogs us down to where we have so many issues. We can't get into any identity. I don't have time to work on myself because I'm too busy trying to help my children, or they're so too busy trying to make me do something that I shouldn't be doing. And I think that's we call that love, but it's really it's a mixture of what has happened to us as a people. And I think that's a sad state that we're in, because a lot of us are in that state. We don't want to talk about it. That's another reason that identity is not something that's first and foremost.
Did you want this, or can I?
You got it.
All right. When you were talking, I'm thinking about something. The way it should be, they should be getting something from us. And if a child feels, you may be a loving parent,
right?
But if you're leaving them in a world where they're unprotected, and they look at where everybody else is at, and what's happening to them, they're being pulled over, and this is not something new.
Right.
This is something that's been happening. They're gonna probably look at us a certain way and say, you know what, I'm here now, and I'm gonna do it my way. And that's that disconnect, because we're not passing down traditions. If we had that people want, then they say, okay, you know what, in my house, you know, ain't nobody walking over us. My dad is stand out there and be like, fight, you know, whatever. I mean, whatever the situation, and they respect that, they're gonna carry that on. But if it's things that they don't respect, even though they may not say it, they looking at their predicament, their conditions, they look at the predicament of our people. It's easy for people to look down and drop their head when they think about our people, if they look at the conditions. But to be someplace, you have to get there. You have to understand how you got to where you're at, or why they are there, to respect, to say, you know what, this is a struggle that I have to take up. This is why my math or my history teachers was teaching me about George Washington never telling a lie, because this is the predicament that they were in and they believe. Now we have this internet stuff, and now I'm going to bring my people forward, as opposed to just looking at them saying, man, that's old. Look at these old fools with all this stuff. You know? Listen to what they're doing. If you don't look after your kids, your kids are not going to leave the house and become grown and turn around and respect you as a parent. You know, they're going to look at you as feeble-minded, or you believe in all this spitting on the broom when somebody, you know, whatever. You broke a mirror. They're going to look at that stuff as, man, that's just old, you know.
Candace, I want to ask you this question. I know we've talked a little bit about it, but I want you to talk a little bit more about it. Do you believe, answer the question, then give us your insight. Do you believe we ever had an identity as a people? And if the answer is yes or no, why do you say what you say?
Yes, at one point.
Okay, but what happened?
Like he said, we were abducted.
Okay.
They took us, and they stripped us from our identity.
We can't get it back?
And but you got to go back to get it back.
Okay. Because that's what I wanted to touch on with us, because I know, again, we all know the storyline, but it's almost like we are now living out all of the things they said about us that's not true. You know, they say that we're a people that do certain things. Everybody does certain things.
Right.
But we are beginning now to wear, like, in other words, instead of me calling you Brother Kevin, you know, I'm going to say, well, that's my end. Well, at one time we wouldn't accept that. But now if I say that's Kevin, no, that's your end. You see, and it's like, so now we've taken that and say, well, that's a term of endearment, which really, it's like we are living out what they've done to us. So at what point do we say, and that's the part I wanted to talk about again, as far as identity, at what point do we say, those who know, that we have to go back, as you just said, and get it, in spite of who else may not want it? You know, you look at that, DK. I know. At what point do we say that, as far as a people? Because everybody can't. A lot of people are so far gone, not want that, because we didn't always want it. But to those that do, what do? We
don't have the control, therefore we don't have the power over the younger generation. So I could tell them, man, stop using the N-word. If they don't respect that, they don't care. They're going to say that's y'all stuff. You know, this is what we do. The women, the girls calling themselves bees, you know, whatever, allow guys calling them B. We could talk to a younger dude, pants, I mean, come on, they're going to look at us, oh, you old school. You don't understand. You don't know. You in another era, because there's no connection. And there's no respect. We don't have power. Power is control. You know, they control the way we think, then they had a power. They control what we could get money, but if they controlling what we doing with our money, if they control the resources, if they control the things that we love, then they control us. You know, if they control the way that we think, then they control us. They already know what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So they have control. They have power because they are controlling us. Our kids, our younger generation, the next generation don't have power over them. We don't have any control over them. They're going to do their thing because it's a disconnect, and they're going to constantly look for different ways to do things than a disconnect from what y'all did. And then, okay, yeah, this is what we do. Y'all did it like that. We're doing the total opposite. We flipping, and they got pride with that. That's what their pride is. But I'm saying we don't have any control over them. So no matter what, until we start educating them in the schools like y'all have, you know, where they understanding that these people care about us. These teachers actually care about us. We're taking them to get what's that the milk that they had, the lactation milk that they get a powdered milk stuff for babies, or Infamil or something like
Similac
that. Similac and all these things. It's like they're getting a Similac education from the system. They're not getting it from us. You know, so yeah.
I mean, Candace, what about those who are older, but we won't let go of the past from the standpoint of we still think that we're in our 20s, but we're not. You know, we still think we won't let go. So therefore, identity has evaded us because we're still thinking that, what did Tyrone Davis say? If I could turn back the hands of time. You can't turn back the hands of time. You know, you can take care of yourself, but a lot of us older people, as Kev was saying, we're putting ourselves right along with the youth. You know, we're talking like them. We're trying to be like them in many instances. A lot of men and women, we're trying to imitate them as opposed to being a teacher, as you mentioned. Because we're going to have to come to that point where those who are knowledgeable, you can't be afraid to talk like we're talking now, because behind closed doors, we all talk a certain way. But when we get out in public, it's like you're not the same woman or man that was behind the closed doors, because you had a great plan about how to help us. But now that people are listening to ethnicities, now you become this, you know, this measly mouse, this person who don't want to talk about. Our people need to get back into going back and talking about identity. So identity is crucial in your aspect, Candace.
Yes.
What is it? Do you think there'll ever come a time where, like, this is Black History Month? So don't you think this would be a part of where we can start the dialogue with, hey, since all these great people did these great things, let's imitate them so we can do for ourselves to help us?
Yeah. But you got to have somebody to teach it. And then they got to want to, you know, me, I like history, and I find power, I find inspiration in the stories, the stuff that I learned. My kids know more stuff than me. Like, that's a shame. You know what I mean?
No, that's
I'm not,
no.
But you know what I mean?
Good.
Like,
that's a good
I know
thing,
it's a good
because
thing,
when
but
you coming from somewhere lower and you pushing them higher, that's good.
I'm just saying from like the school system aspect of it. But I like, you have to want it. You have to, like, I was in the church and I was just like, man, like, I need more. I need more. And then when I had a conversation with you, when we did the first Black History program at the church, you had told me something, and you was just like, you know, women are like powerful. You know, they're this, they're gods, they're this and that. And it stuck in my head. And so, like, a light came on. And then hence we have the Liberation Center. And then we already had Liberation Academy, just hadn't had a name to it. So my kids was already going there with Jahi. But I was like, I'm learning all this stuff. And I was like, I got to help my people. You know what I'm saying? My people is my purpose. So let's give away clothes. We gonna feed them. We gonna do COVID testing. We were like 2021. That's when COVID, when COVID hit. And we started the Liberation Center at the end of 20, the middle of the end of 2021. We came out swinging with COVID testing, free COVID testing. And, you know, so I'm like, let's help our people. Let's do this. Let's do that. I'm getting back into it now because, you know, stuff be getting heavy. You know, you gotta get your mind right. You gotta get yourself straight in order to do what you've been called to do, or what you're passionate about.
I was going to ask Kevin something about identity. Kev, in your circles, do you have these types of conversations with a lot of your friends and coworkers about identity? Those who look like you, who call themselves Christians?
it's a lot of negativity. It's how you present the conversation. Like if I'm talking to a sister and she fries her hair, she perms her hair.
Right.
Now you got to think the way Candace wears her hair. A lot of older people would talk down on that. So then but you have to understand that's because you have been, I don't want to brainwash, whatever you want to say it. Because when I was doing my dreadlocks and when I did and I came here, I was one of the few people that had dreadlocks.
Okay.
That wasn't the clump. And I remember like older women stop, baby, why are you doing that to yourself? And see, I'd already been around, and I was like, you know what? This is what when I was in the military, I was like, if I could do it in the military, I would. Right. But as soon as I got out, I started. I want to identify as a black man. But so when you had that conversation with people, you have to talk to people at where they're at, and the whole thing or people going natural, which is mainly on the woman's side. They say, well, I'm starting to go natural. You have to encourage them, and you have to show that kind of love that you're not alone. People are going to talk negatively about, they're going to look at you and they're going to call you just like we did as kids. Oh, you look at you black, blah, blah, blah. You nappy headed, this, and this. And you have to change that mindset to that's beautiful. Right. So when I talk to people, I'm like, yeah, that's beautiful. You know, I see somebody I don't know and I say, you know, I love your hair, you know, and I tell them that because they may hear 5 other people look at, or they may see them look at them and snick or whatever, or say something negative. But let me get to some of these comments. We're running late on some of these comments. I appreciate Coretta for showing up in the day, and Sakina, walaikum assalam, sister. Barbara, I appreciate you showing up. She said, Hotep to the panel. All I ever knew about history for a long time was what the educational system taught me, being illiterate about our own history. And now that many of us as a people, minorities, are becoming more educated about ourselves. Let me scroll. About ourselves and our history, and the map shows that the educational systems are not even willing to teach our children about their own history. And I appreciate that comment. And man, I hope I didn't skip a comment. I did. Josiah said, you want to read what Josiah said?
Correct. We do not have an identity. That's why we try to emulate the other nations.
Correct. And I appreciate Aisha for showing up. And
I was going to say that the comments are really pertinent because it seems like the thread has to go back to history. In other words, how did it start? Who were we? What happened to us? Now, why are we the way we are now? Because if we look back, even in different cultures, regardless of where we go, they all had this sense of purpose. They had a sense of who they were collectively. And we that. And a lot of us, based upon the fact that as a people, we have been so devastated with Eurocentric indoctrination that we don't want to have this discussion. And it's very hard to have a discussion about how we should be looking at who we are as a people and working on ourselves, you know, even when it comes to something as simple as our attitudes. You know, why do I need to kill you if you step on some of my new shoes? You know, this is how petty we've gotten, you know, or if we're together and something happens that's minor, you know, I want to try to take your life. These are learned behaviors that we have to continue to work through. But until a person gets to the point where they look at themselves, like many people have and said, we have to do something, guys. We really do. Now, we can't, everybody's not going to jump on the bandwagon. So we must do the best we can. And we must always be beacons of light to help people realize that if you want to know, even with the John Kerr show, if people want to know more about any of the subjects, you know, they have access to us. You see, they know that they can be taught, where a lot of people are unapproachable. And if you don't give them any money or anything like that, you can't get these kind of basic dialogues that we're having about identity or any subject for that matter. So again, I think it does start with looking back in history to seeing what really happened at the beginning and then taking it from there.
And I don't necessarily agree with, we could go back and look at Africa and get our culture. What culture are we going to get as a people here in America? We could look at, it's how many countries in Africa?
over 53.
54 countries, something like that. They didn't have one culture.
No.
So, I mean, when we say we could do that and say, well, you know what, we're doing this because this is an African culture, but that's not something that we're going to be able to, because then you're picking to choose. That's a buffet. That's and all of those peoples, they had their different religions that I'm talking about before Christianity, Islam, or any other thing came there. They had multitudes that's more than those countries. I mean, it's hundreds of different religions. Would say, you know, now we can pick and choose and say, well, I want to get this from there, I want to get this from there, and I mean, you look at the Bantu beliefs or religions within those subcultures, they had different ideas about how they started. Some of them thought they came from plants, right? Some of them thought they came from fish in the sea. So you could say, well, I'm going to go there and I'm going to get something, but we got to get something. Yeah, but you can't just go and say, well, I'm just going to, because then you may come up, and I'm gonna tell you, it's going to be like 150,000 black people with a different African culture, and none of them going to have any dogma that's the same.
Right, and I agree. But when I say something like that, I'm saying there are some basic principles that all of us should be able to have amongst humanity. So, in spite of how they started, you're right. Doctrinally speaking, yeah, there was people believe this, people believe that, but within those subcultures, most of those people knew how to treat one another. We didn't go from country to country to continent, taking people, stripping them of their land, stripping them of their language, stripping them of their culture, stripping them of their identity. So, you know, we can get some principles. The religion, you're right, but the principles are always timeless, because I should know how to treat you no matter whether I come from Bangladesh or Spain.
Morals. Exactly. We don't have to go to Africa to get morals. Right. We know right from wrong, and how to treat a woman, or how to treat a man, and how to treat a child, and how to treat a neighbor. And this is things that we need to galvanize and pass down to when those kids, when you're talking about them killing each other, they don't have value. That's because they don't value somebody that looks like them. So we have to pass down those ethics, those morals, and those values, and pass them down, make that link, and say, this is how it got to start at home. Because whatever's happening in the world, when my kids get out in the world, I have to prepare them. This is what's happening with our people and why it's happening. But when you go out, this is the values I'm instilling in you. And somebody's going to meet them and say, this is a good person. Then it may spread like COVID. It may spread. But we have to do that. We have to get those morals and values and those simple principles, and have that pride and say, this is our people.
Exactly. You see that, you brothers and sisters watching the John Care Show, you know, we have a guest today. Kevin and I, we be chopping it up like this all the time. We're gonna get back to our guests, because if you turn us loose, we're gonna go. So we're gonna go back to our guests, and we're gonna ask our guests a question. We're going back to our subject: identity in the African American community. Candace has said some things about identity that maybe you agree with, maybe you don't. But I'm gonna ask her another question about identity. When we talk about identity, Candace, when you look at your personal family, just those people in your family, how big is that amongst your family, your sisters, your brothers, your uncles, your aunts? Can you recall sitting around a table eating food and them talking about, we got to do better?
No.
Why not, Candy? Why not? Are you scared to start it the next time y'all meet?
We just so on my mom's side, my grandparents were older.
Okay.
They were like in their 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s when I was growing up. So it's like, you know, Papa and Granny, they, you know, we watching TV, watching soap operas and stuff like that. Like they didn't really have those discussions with us, you know, like they were, I guess, supposed to. So now, like, I like being around older people.
Okay.
I like just sitting, you know, they used to tell us, go get to the kids' table. I'm grown now, so I'm finna sit.
Yeah, I just know. Kel he was pouring something. I just cut my eyes over there. It looked like he had some yak because he had it down low. He didn't do it like this. He had it low, y'all. So
I'm not trying to give them no appetizement.
Okay.
No, that's what that is.
All right. Well, go ahead.
I like being around older people because it's knowledge. It's wisdom. You know, even though it may not be what I'm talking, I can get something out of it.
Okay.
And then to go back to what you were saying about going back, you know, you just can't go back and get something. I feel like it's like you can build your identity. you need a foundation,
Okay.
which is the principles of Mayat or whoever,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? And then build from there. You can take from this culture, you can take from that culture, and you can still be a Christian at the same time. You know, long as you know who you are and your values and, you know, stuff that you want to put out there in the world or to, you know, your people, you're good.
Yeah, that's kind of touchy though, Candace. That's touchy because I mean, I know we often say that you could still be a certain person in a religion. It depends on what that religion is teaching, because some of them teaches that they don't want to be around us. But we don't think like they think we're the devils
or witches.
And all this kind of stuff. So
and I think that's how people interpret the religions that they are, because you have people, if you look in America, you have Black Christian church, you have the white Christian church. And I read like about a week or so ago, they called this one pastor the most racist pastor. And he said like mixed couples is like bestiality, and he refused to marry. And that's not anything that they're teaching. That's that person. You're going to take, like you said, you could be pro-Black or whatever, Afrocentric, and still be whatever you are and whatever your beliefs are. You could be a pro-Black atheist, whatever. That has nothing to do. And I've seen things like that because these groups there have talk about Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and then they say, well, everybody that's religion is stupid. But these are the people that you're putting on your poster, naming your group after the Malcolm X Society. And then you talk about, you know, so I'm saying that the religion thing, that's something you could believe in it, then take it off and don't believe it, whatever you're in. But that has nothing to do with who you are. You have to have those values and the values of who you are. So if I'm a Black man and I'm a Muslim and you're a Black man and you're a Christian or you're a Black woman and you're atheist, I still got to have that love for you as far as our people, because like I said, and if you go to the continent, they have multitudes of religious beliefs, but they should look at each other and say, I don't care. And even national tribes or whatever, you're Zulu, I'm this, and hey.
But you're speaking the truth, Kel. And the reality is there's a few of us that's like that, because, you know, you and I, we believe differently, but we love each other and we don't allow that to stop us. But unfortunately, many people, man, they don't look at this identity the way we do. They say you have to accept what I believe, and then you have to accept that hook, line, and sinker. And that's being promulgated all over the world. And therefore, people begin to see us, even though you'll give someone the shirt off your back because you're a kind-hearted person, but the way they see you because of what they've been indoctrinated in. So you have to have this pro-Black, this mindset. And it's not that many of those types of ministries that would actually link arms with a person who doesn't believe like them, because that leader is going to tell them that's the enemy, man.
Yeah. If your religious, your politics or whatever it is telling you that you should not bond with somebody that look like you, then you need to change whatever that is. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying it may, if you got a pastor that's cool, that's like that, and it may be another pastor that's totally different, that's telling you something totally different. But I'm not saying well, you got to lead the whole thing, but leave that.
You know,
or that whatever.
You know what they call that? They call that in some places being unequally yoked. But yet you'll take your money and give it to anybody else to exploit you. And so,
or I'm gonna tell you, this is unevenly yoked, because you could talk about people and people and I that look like us and say, well, you know what, they're stupid, they don't believe. But then when you selling stuff or you want donations, you don't care about what they believe. And I'm saying all that stuff doesn't matter when you need something. When you need somebody help. You know, if you're needing food and you're poor and you're atheist, and the church is going to give you somebody, or somebody's showing up to give you food, you don't say, wait a minute, what's your theological belief? What's your belief?
And when that police officer puts that stick upside your head, they don't care what you believe.
Because that's what Malcolm X said. He said, I'm leaving that stuff at home and I'm doing some different type of work now. You know, that's and I'm saying we are so diverse as a people. If we allowed our diversities to cripple us, then we're gonna remain crippled.
Yeah.
You know, I can't look at somebody and say, well, you know what, they believe in this, so I can't even deal with them. Do you love our people? Do you have morals and values? Because you could be the same belief that I am, and I see you stealing or lying or hitting women, then I'm disconnected from you on those moral things that you're showing.
Yeah, and it should be personal.
Yeah,
religions and spirituality, all that's personal, but a lot of times people don't know how to interpret that. You see, and like you say, you can take the principles and you can be a kind-hearted person to all people, especially our people. But unfortunately, a lot of times we've been told since we were little children that these people that are not like us are the enemy. That's why it's like a sports team.
And you have to mature past that type of talking and teaching or whatever, because I heard people say that about Malcolm X. I mean, our people at that time didn't follow. A lot of them didn't follow him because of his religious beliefs, even though he was speaking a lot of intelligent things and a lot of powerful things, but they turned him off because, okay, he's not what part of our see, you can't do that. You can't
I know.
Put yourself in a corner to only want to deal with people that you believe that you
to your advantage. Candace, what about the people of old? You know, Brother Kevin's talking about Malcolm X, you know, Martin Luther King, you know, Denmark VC, all these brothers and sisters, you know, Sojourner Truth, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that back during that time that they were more identity conscious than we are today?
Yes.
You do? Well, why do you say that?
Because like he said, they had morals, they had, you know, self-respect, and they didn't have distractions like we do. You know, they didn't have nobody shaking their booty, fighting, you know, like, you know, we're so distracted as a people.
Well, my grandpa told me that.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's just at a, you know, you just turn your phone on and boom, it's in your face. And these, like, it just amazes me how much stuff we done as a people, like inventions and, you know, because it's like, man, I can't even go to stay focused at work, you know, and they done built stuff, made stuff, and, you know, made a whole nation to follow them, like Malcolm X. And it's like,
wow.
It's just mind blowing to me. So I think they were. I mean, they were fighting, like they fight was way harder than what we got, in my opinion.
And they still
maintain. And they got it. It's like, okay, I got my people. We gotta bring them forward, or we gotta, you know.
I asked somebody else the same question, and this is what they told me. They didn't put it this way, but they said that the people back in the day, some of them may have been fools as far as those who didn't want to get into identity and all that. But then I said, well, what about us? And she said, back in the day, they were fools, but today we are damn fools. So she said, I may have been a fool, but I'm not a damn fool. So they're saying that the difference is, like you mentioned, we allow those things to stop us. We're not committed to anything of great significance. And therefore, until we get to that point, or at least start the process, we won't be able to solve or even delve into these. But personally speaking, you know, each person has to look in the mirror at themselves and just work on the character, the nature that they are, and make sure that they can be beneficial to society.
I think that the food thing, I think you can be fooled, but that don't make you a fool. You know, it's a whole lot of people in relationships and they're being fooled, but that's because that's what they believe. Now, if that person is showing you the opposite and you keep doing it, then you become a fool. But I'm saying, I think a lot of our ancestors, because we're starting from scratch and we're fighting. And we was fooled by America. We believed in America. I can look at Martin Luther King and say that his dream, that was a foolish dream. I could do that. I'm not saying that I am doing that, because he has to realize that those people do not want you hand in hand, because that's biological death for them. We have the dominant gene. If black people and white people were constantly getting together like that, that would eradicate the race. But you have to understand, but they didn't know that. They didn't understand. So they were being fooled by the system. The system was acting like they loved them. The system was slowly giving them little things, making them think they're making progress. And actually, we're still here doing the same thing and fighting the same thing. One more point I'm going to make about being bonding and things like that, whether you're old school generation, young people, and they have all these things. Back in the day, they were forced to bond together. They were forced to live on a certain part of town or outside of town or across the railroad tracks. They had no choice. And now that we think we have choices, we don't want anything to do with each other. And that's something from within us because we are looking to move away. But when I was in the military and I went to Europe, it didn't matter if you was white, Black, or Hispanic. If you was American and they saw you, they was like, hey, where you from? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm from Alabama. Oh, yeah, I'm from New York. Blah, blah, blah. But see, that's because we are in a foreign place and we are the minorities there. So we look for each other. But when you get back to America, that same person to turn his head up and keep walking and be like, effing in, blah, blah, blah. Right, they don't want to speak or they grabbing their stuff thinking you're going to rob them. But when you get away, and I think that's how it was back in the day, we were forced to have camaraderie. And it didn't matter. We didn't let those little things get in our way about what we believed or who we wanted to follow. We were forced to congregate.
I got you. Candace, we have about 5 minutes left, maybe 4 minutes now, and I want you to give you an opportunity to speak to the people, to encourage the people, because we always leave on a note where we try to encourage people when it comes to identity. What would you say to a person that says, okay, where do I start? What must I do? How do I begin to start the process of looking at myself and getting into my identity so that I can become a benefit to my society?
I think like I said, you have to go back. I started, I watched documentaries about Africa, about Egypt, about the, Orishas and stuff like that. And to see, how powerful we are and how resilient we were. And, kings and queens, we tearing them up, and wars and all kinds of stuff. So it's like that's where we come from. We come from greatness. And that fuels me. You know what I mean? And I see all this stuff like, I am powerful. Yeah, they keep me distracted. They keep us distracted. They keep us fighting each other, killing each other, but I have to, have my blinders on and be like, this ain't it. This ain't me. I just encourage you, like, study, meditate, research. I mean, whatever, pretty much the same thing you do in church, just do it on your own, but on a different topic, a different subject, which is us, our heritage, our ancestors, really, because they got the answers. They got all the answers. You just gotta talk to them. Just like you pray to God or Jesus or whatever, it's the same exact thing. Like, to me, it is. So I just encourage people to, if you're willing, you got to do the work. It ain't easy, but you got to do the work. Well,
we really thank you for coming out to be on our broadcast. I think she's our first guest. In-house.
I mean, in-house guest. Because we had we did our house. Yeah.
I did.
And Kwanzaa market.
Okay, in-house. So
in-house. I appreciate you coming on.
What you got to say to the people before we sign off?
I think identity has a lot of layers to it. And the main thing with your identity, you should value yourself and then value your people. I mean, value your family. And a lot of those things have been stripped of us. It's no glue that's bonding us. We have to find that glue that's going to bond us together and keep us together and make us strong. Before, back in the day, the glue that was bonding us was they were attacking us and we was constantly being bombarded. I mean, so we had to bond together and do things. Now we don't see that sense of urgency, but we still have to find that glue. How can a mature man reach younger kids? How are you reaching younger kids? You started a school or whatnot, but how can the common people reach the people in their family? Like when you ask Candace about conversations in their family, are you an outcast in your family? Or, I mean, you may be an outcast at first, but the more you talk and the more you set the example, then the more they may start to matriculate and understand, and they may start asking you questions. And Thanksgiving dinners, whatever people are doing to get together, you have to be able to communicate. The communication is key, because you can't attack somebody for, look at how you look at how y'all dress. And then want them to listen to you. You have to understand why they're doing the things they're doing. And you may not agree with it, but just, be able to talk to them about the things they're doing, or how, you can't be so with a hammer.
Right.
Every situation is not a nail. Some of them are screws, and you have to use a different tool. You have to take a screwdriver and screw it in slowly instead of just banging it. And then people listen to you and they talk and communicate with them. Communication is going to be a key for us to bond together.
Good. That's great. This is a great broadcast. I just want to say finally too, as far as the encouragement is, we must look within ourselves and realize that we must love ourselves. It all starts with us. We have to love ourselves so much that we're willing to work on that which we see every day in the mirror when we wake up and wash our faces, and that's each of us. We must look at ourselves and ask some crucial and critical questions. The things that I'm doing in this world that I know are not pleasing, how do I change those things, and how do I need to work on those things and begin the process of working on the self? And then once we begin to love ourselves and do what we need to do interpersonally, then we can expand out to others and show them that love. And when they ask us a question as to why are you so nice, why are you so kind? Well, because I've worked on my inner self, and now I know that my identity is something that I would love to share with you, but it all starts with self. So on behalf of Brother Kevin, on behalf of Queen Candace, I am Ja, and we're getting out of here. We love you all. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, if y'all have any topics y'all want us to discuss, hit us up on our email, and or hit us up on Facebook, Cries Womb with Jahi or Kevin Lewis on Facebook, and Hotep, peace, salam alaikum.
Peace.